What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Critical Overlord here. In this video I'm going to talk about the chances of us going to a different town other than just sticking to Woodsboro in Scream 5. I know we only really had a film in Woodsboro for Scream and Scream 4. Scream 2 and Scream 3. Scream 2 is at Windsor College. We don't actually know where that was at, actually. I don't think they state if it's in California or not. We know Scream 3 was in Hollywood, which is in Los Angeles, California, in the Los Angeles area. And then speaking with Scream 5, we very well could see a movie step out of California where we venture out into a new state and a new town. Now, however, I'm a little bit skeptical about this just because of the fact that we know the movie is going to be shooting in Wilmington, North Carolina later this year. And just to get into that area actually looks like Woodsboro. It looks like a lot of different establishing shots could be made in that town to go back to Woodsboro. So I'm pretty certain that this is where the film will take place, back in Woodsboro again. But I want to talk about, just let's say we are in a different town, just for the sake of this video. Let's say that we venture out into a new town where we have a brand new set of characters. We're not going to be focusing primarily on Sidney, Prescott, Dewey, Riley, and Gale Weathers. We're going to be focusing on a new group of teens or a new group of adults, young adults, who are in a similar predicament where somebody has picked up the shtick of going around this neighborhood, killing people in the disguise of Ghostface, something that's very popular in the pop culture, of course, with the Stab series in this world. And they're just basically being a copycat of real life events that happened to Sidney Prescott. Let's say something tragic happens in the town, like a few local teens or a few local girls, or somebody gets killed in the town that's probably not too far from Woodsboro. Let's say this is set in just a different state. I'm going to say it's set in Michigan, perhaps set in Michigan, and we find out that this kill that happened in Michigan is just something that hits the news on almost every state. It's like a very big thing that happened. The residents in Woodsboro get note of this. Dewey, Sidney, and Gale, they feel inclined to travel out and venture out to kind of lend their help to the town and try to see what's going on here. And then, of course, in the very end, just when we think that this has nothing to do with Sidney Prescott, of course, Sidney's going to be right there in the thick of things. Maybe we meet a new lead character and a new young teen girl, or again, it could be a young adult woman who I want to say, let's say she's portrayed by Taissa Farmiga, who I think is an amazing actress. I actually think I wouldn't say she's better than her sister, Vera Farmiga. I just think Taissa Farmiga, if she was in a Scream series, I could see her pulling it off as a new Sidney type of character, or even Samara Weaving. But we meet a new protagonist. Sidney meets this new protagonist, this new woman that we're going to be following, and hopefully will carry us into the future of the franchise past Scream 6. And Sidney is trying to help this girl figure out who's causing these killings in the town. Sidney kind of is a counselor. She's in like a counselor role for this woman. Dewey, of course, comes to the area, maybe because he was brought in by the police department in the state of Michigan, in that area. They requested that he be brought in to help them investigate this because it has to do with another Ghostface killing spree that he has plenty of knowledge about, because he's gone through this 4 times. They ask him to bring in anyone he wants to for backup. He decides he wants to bring in, of course, his wife, who I'm assuming is still going to be Gale Weathers if they haven't gotten a divorce in the film yet. And then he also brings in his friend Sidney Prescott, who is very familiar with Ghostface killing sprees because she was the target of them 4 specific times, and there's a whole film series regarding her whole life. They go to that town. We're getting to know a brand new set of characters, and just when we think that this has nothing to do with Sidney, of course, in the very end, while she's here being like a counselor to these kids and trying to help this new young lady figure out what's going on and who's terrorizing her, the motives of the killers are revealed. It has very much something to do with Sidney. And again, I'm going to say this is quite possibly going to be, yes, another person who wasn't someone who had a grudge against Sidney, but they basically like catch wind of the fact that she was in town. If the Ghostface killer, let's say whoever Ghostface was, they caught wind, of course, that Sidney's in town, and maybe they have some type of history or type of gripe with Sidney that they want to settle, since she decided to bring herself to town. And we find out that this has something to do very much with Sidney. Maybe Sidney has wronged this person in the past somehow. And then, of course, we find out that that's the connection with Sidney to this new story. Because essentially what this is like a soft reboot. We don't have a story without Dewey, Sidney, and Gale. But Dewey, Sidney, and Gale are not going to be right there. Like, they're not going to be the front end of this story, because it's going to be set in a different town other than Woodsboro. The killer isn't primarily targeting Sidney Prescott. The killer just starts to target Sidney because Sidney decided to show up in town. And then, of course, we find out in the end, like I was mentioning, that the killer has a gripe with Sidney. Maybe he was wronged by her in the past, or if it's a she, maybe he or she were wronged by Sidney in the past. Maybe they have a prior history with Sidney Prescott. Maybe they went to high school with her. Maybe something from college. Maybe something from this whole, maybe something from this whole book, some backlash from her book. Just something to think about in regards to us having a Scream 5 where it is taking place after Scream 4, but we're shifting focus away from our three central characters. While they're still primarily there in the thick of things, it's not going to be just about Sidney this time. It's going to be about some other girl or some other young, let's say, what if we have a young teen male who's our new role in the Sidney role. He could be the one getting targeted by Ghostface. Sidney's trying to help figure out what happened. Dewey, of course, is trying to help the police department solve the case. Gale Weathers is there basically just because, again, if Gale Weathers isn't Sidney's, or not Sidney's, but Dewey's husband still in Scream 5, I don't see the point of her really being there. Other than the fact that she might just be there to collect the story. She's back to her old tricks again. Just like how she was in Scream 2, how she traveled to Windsor College to get the scoop on everything. But I think that would be a really interesting take, to have a Scream series set in a different town where we're focusing on different characters, focusing on the same type of idea where we have a Ghostface killer who's doing the Ghostface shtick that we all know and love. Roger L. Jackson's back reprising the voice of Ghostface, but it's not going to be all about Sidney this time. It's about something different besides just Sidney. Sidney, of course, would end up being tied into it, but the story isn't just going to be focusing on our three central characters that we all are very familiar with. Because, again, as I made clear in my last video, Scream needs to make something out of its supporting cast outside of just having them there to just be killed off by Ghostface and having one of them be Ghostface and we never see them again. And a lot of you may mention in the comment section that we have plenty of characters from previous films who could appear. I made mention of that in the video. I wasn't saying there aren't plenty of surviving characters that could return. It's just that none of them have. It's like none of them have ever been in a Scream movie, and then we've seen them in the sequel. We've seen them in the next subsequent sequel. So, like, Detective Kincaid, it would have been great to see him in Scream 4. Then we could have gotten him back in Scream 5, Scream 6. Cotton Weary, I know he was killed. Randy Meeks, like stuff like that. Some other characters like Joel that I brought mention of. Joel isn't dead. It would have been nice to see him in Scream 3 still being Gale's cameraman. If that was even still an ongoing relationship that they had, they could have constructed something like that. Like, just stop killing off the supporting cast and not bringing anyone back. And then we have Kirby Reed, who I hope is involved in this. Kirby could be involved. She's back in the town, of course, because actually, let's say Kirby moved to Michigan. And I know the synopsis says a young woman returns to her hometown after a series of vicious crimes. Woodsboro isn't Kirby's hometown, so the young woman wouldn't be Kirby. And I don't really think it specifies if the woman is young or not. I just think it's that a lot of these news outlets are throwing in that young woman thing. I think they're just throwing. I think what the real synopsis that I believe got first reported by Discussing Films is that a woman returns to her hometown to investigate a series of vicious crimes. Doesn't necessarily describe them as young, but a lot of news outlets took that and started throwing in that young woman scenario. So Kirby doesn't have to be this young woman, but let's say Kirby moved to the Michigan state, and we have Tysa Farmiga or Samara Weaving, somebody who is a upcoming actress who a lot of people are behind in the horror community, and they are our new central character. They return to their hometown after this vicious crime that happened at the beginning of Scream 5. And then, of course, we would then venture out to bringing in Dewey, Sidney, Gale. We're getting to know a new set of characters this time around. We're not just focusing on the original main trio. because of the simple fact that Spyglass might want to venture out and do things past Scream 6, or they might not even want to do Kevin Williamson's original plans. They might just want to do their own thing. I hope they have some type of script that has to do with what Kevin Williamson originally planned for Scream 5. Doesn't necessarily have to be in college, but maybe they got some insight from him and they're going to tweak their script a bit to fit what he had in mind for his Scream 5. I don't know what all Kevin Williamson's influence is going to be on this. I can't wait to see what the final product is going to be based off a trailer. Get some official details regarding the cast. But I really think a Scream movie set in a different town of Woodsboro would be a different change of scene. Would be a nice thing to see. We've seen it before, but it wasn't in like another small town. It was just in Hollywood, or we were at college. Like, I want to see us have a Woodsboro type of deal going on, but it's not in Woodsboro. We're in a different town, different state, and Ghostface, someone has picked up the Ghostface stick, and now we have our cast members back to help bring a stop to it and help figure out what's going on in the town. But let me know what you guys think about all this down in the comment section below. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and turn on post notifications so that you never miss a video. In the description, I'll have links to all my social media accounts on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can message me there to let me know if there's any movies, news, or reviews you would like me to cover in the future. With all that in mind, guys, I will see you in the next